All right, welcome to the Goal Doctor podcast. Today, in episode one, I want to talk about goals. So, in so much of life, we have an idea about what we want to do, but so often there's parts of our lives where we fall short in what we are able to do and able to get done. I have a quote here, and this weekend, as we begin, it is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday weekend, and we're moving into the holiday. And growing up, Martin Luther King was not um, a person who had a holiday. I know that may be hard to believe for some of my millennials and younger folks, but for those of us who are Generation X and older, we know of a time where there was not a Martin Luther King holiday. And here's the quote. It says, "Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness or destructive selfishness." So I'll say that again. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Now, what does altruism mean? Altruism means unselfish regard for the welfare of others in most instances. And I learned that along the way in my travels with the good brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. That said, understanding altruism, understanding doing something greater than yourself, getting beyond our destructive selfishness or any type of selfishness that leads to destruction is an important part of our own development, right? It's an important part of our goal setting. And I'll put a tagline right here. It's a part of priorities. Priorities are extremely important. Priorities that must be developed day in and day out. I think about my priorities as a young person versus my priorities now. I think about my priorities last year versus my priorities now going forward into the year of 2021. And they have definitely changed, but they help me establish a base by which to move forward from. Priorities are extremely important. That's what I want to talk about. But before I get deeper into priorities, I'm going to tell a story. I like stories, and I have some ridiculous stories about myself growing up and developing goals. So in second grade, I spent a lot of time in trouble. A lot of time going from my classroom to the principal's office for things that I couldn't quite understand, but I kept ended up in trouble. I may not have started the problem. I may not have started the fight. I may not have started the argument. I may not have started the thing that led us to being in from recess late. But nonetheless, I seemed to end up in trouble in the principal's office. And this concerned me deeply because my mother was a teacher at the same school where I was at, and she would also be able to follow through with any type of discipline or punishment that I received at the end of the day. My mother is a saint of a woman. And I know she got tired of having to deal with me day in and day out in my troubles of being in the principal's office. And I made one goal for myself as this second grade student who ended up in the principal's office so frequently. And that goal was for me to stop being in trouble, to stop ending up in the principal's office. And too often, my father or my mother received a phone call about something that I had done that had led to me ending up in the principal's office. Now, my mother, she inspired me with an opportunity. She knew my priority as an 8-year-old boy was about football. Just about everything I did, everything I loved had to do with football. Now, I didn't play on a team. But I did play on the street, two-hand touch. And then my friend's backyard, we would put on our pads and try to crack each other as we tackled each other and knocked each other down playing football. And I followed all the NFL teams. I had even made a poster. I'd written it out. First, I'd used a pencil, then I would use my crayons or colored markers, and I would draw out each of the helmets for every football team, and I put them up on my wall by division. So I loved football. I knew every quarterback, I knew every running back. So my mom inspired me with a goal for football. At the time, and man, this is taking me way back for some of you young people, but there was a Sears catalog that would come out. And in this Sears catalog, there would be toys for every young person to see, and they would encourage their parents to buy those toys. I was no different than the rest of my friends and encourage my parents to buy toys for me. So there was a particular toy that I liked. It was a doll. Let me be real. I was a boy who liked to play with these dolls. I had G.I. Joe. I had Mr. T. I had the Bionic Man. Yes, I'm taking it back. And there were these football players who they had these little helmets that could come on and off. And in my hometown in Oceanside, we were in the county of San Diego, and they had the Chargers. But I could also order on, not online, I could order through mail order a doll from the Dallas Cowboys, right? That was my favorite team, although I grew up in San Diego. And I loved to have my Cowboys play against the Chargers, right? So I was able to order these dolls. Now they cost $7. So I had to save up all month to buy one doll, right? But every day, right, I would save up for these football players, and I could, when you ordered them, they came with numbers, and you can put the right number on the back. You can order a black player or a white player, um, and I ordered both. And back then, you had a quarterback, you had a running back, so I wanted three per team, and I wanted one from the Cowboys, I wanted one from the Chargers, and I ordered some from the Steelers even. So at the end of each day, my mother and teacher would talk about how I had done. If I had got a check on the board next to my name, I would not earn a quarter. But if I was able to keep from earning or having a check because I had disrupted class or I'd come in late or I didn't follow a direction, if I was able to keep my name and no checks next to it, I could earn a quarter. Man, I would look forward to this at the end of each day because I knew it was going into my bank. And I had a bear, and rather than a pig, I had a bear bank. And I would put those quarters and I'd hear it plop at the end. And each week I'd count up how many I had. The first week, it was kind of pitiful. There were only 5 quarters in there. I knew I only had $1.25. And I kept going each week, and I asked my mom if there were other chores that I could do to help her because she taught at the same school. I would ask my teacher if there's anyone else who needed help so I could earn those quarters and I would save up to buy. Those are the first time I remember developing a goal, right? Now, what was really good about these goals that my mother and my teacher were helping me develop, as I talked about in my promo, my intro podcast there, was they were measurable, observable, and doable, right? It was measurable in dollars, measurable in cents, right? It was observable because my teacher was able to give me feedback on my behavior. She was observing me do what I was supposed to do within class, and they were doable because I couldn't think past each day. I'm 8 years old. I'm having difficulty doing that. And really, even my teacher needed to check in with me almost every hour because I was trying to change my behavior. Now, as I went to school, studied psychology and learned more about goals, I also expanded to this idea that goals need to be concrete, basic, right? They need to be current, something that's of interest to me, right? And important that I'm doing each day. And they need to be challenging, right? Something that would move me beyond where I was currently at, which could lead to a level of mastery based upon my performance in the classroom. I wanted to have a certain level of mastery over my own behavior, right? So I'm an 8 year old wanting to do better, wanting to be better. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do it. So this stayed with me from second grade all the way through high school. This idea of rewarding myself for doing the right thing. Now, some might say, well, eventually, and my mom ran out of quarters and she got tired of giving me dollars. But I had to develop my own internal sense of how I was doing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about an internal locus of control. We'll get into more attributions and motivations as we move on with our discussion of these goals and episodes. But I'm just going to pause here to talk about my own internal priorities. And I'm going back to these priorities and making a choice, right? And man, one of my favorite characters as a kid um, was at least a character to me, right? As I watched TV shows, was Bruce Lee, right? And in all of his movies, what I appreciate about his movies, there was a moment where he had a choice in between fighting and not fighting. He had a choice in between helping people and not helping people. But generally, it came down to he made the right choice to help people in his movies, whether it was the Biz Boss, whether it was the Chinese Connection, whether it was Enter the Dragon. He always had a choice, and somebody was pointing him to that broader way. Martin Luther King, for many folks in our generation, was the one challenging us to help other people in a better way. What are we doing as young people, as older people, to inspire the next generation to do something better, right? And how are we demonstrating that in a measurable, observable, and doable way? Man, if I think about that this weekend, right, and this decision that we have to make, to walk in creative altruism. I love Dr. King's use of words about our goals. Right? It isn't just about my own personal success. It isn't just about my own individual rights. It's about how can I make the world better around me? How can I make people better around me? Man, that's what I'm inspired by. That's what I'm encouraged by. So if I were to do that this week, I would want to at least find a group of people or find one person even where I can do something for them that's unselfish, that is helpful in the most, that goes beyond my general sense of I'm doing it because even I think it's the right thing. No, I'm doing it because it is right to help someone else. I'm doing it because someone else needed to be helped. And I'll let you think about that for this week, and as you go throughout your day. But definitely, let's continue to develop that idea of doing something because it's helpful to others. I have a sense of control, and I'm going back to my idea about this internal location or locus of my control. I can make a choice each day to do something that's helpful to others. Now, I made a choice as an 8-year-old to do something that's helpful to me, and I was prioritizing for me because I'm 8 and I'm a child, and children should be selfish to some degree. Let's be real. They need to look out for themselves because life is hard and scary sometimes. But I think as adults, especially, we need to be thinking about others, whether it's our own children, whether it's if you're an educating your own students, whether you're a business person and your customers, whether you're a world or a government leader, as it were, and you're thinking about the people who you need to serve. We need to be doing it for unselfish reasons so the world can be a better place. All right, those are my thoughts on developing goals and a pretty broad and expansive look at altruism and priorities. What are your priorities? Right? Let me know. You can reach me at drbrandongamble.com, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and hopefully this has helped you in some way. Next time, we will talk about how motivation helps people to reach goals. I want to thank you for listening. I'm the Goal Doctor, Dr. Brandon Gamble, and I hope you had a great day and continue to reach your goals.